Hello, this is Sarah and my friend
Shengjia.
And we're actually just going to hang out pretty much. I wanted to basically just be us and talk mental health like we normally do, because that's legit like most of our conversations. So this isn't anything formal. This isn't really an interview or anything. I'm gonna call it a yap. We're gonna do a mental health yap. And as people with ADHD, I think that's very fitting.
Yeah.
So, cool. Okay. A little bit of background. Anything you want to share for context?
I am diagnosed with ADHD. I have mild depression, a little bit of anxiety, but not that much. Mainly it's my ADHD and depression. Most of my ADHD is like inattentiveness, forgetfulness. Yeah, I am also medicated for both ADHD and depression.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, because it does, I feel like being medicated plays into how we interact with the world in general as compared to when we're not medicated.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, and I mean, that's pretty much what I would say in terms of mental health related background.
I love this because it's like we're already getting into some like good snippets, and I'm writing them down because I'm gonna forget. Okay, to be real, like when we hang out, I usually don't take notes, obviously, but for the purpose of making sure this is productive, I am taking notes this time because our conversations go from like A to Z within like 30 minutes.
More like 30 seconds. And then to a whole different topic.
And then we're like, what were we talking about?
Yep.
So, okay, cool. Actually, just because we kind of already started talking about like diagnoses and all that, when did you get diagnosed?
God, probably around either like right before college or around college time. At that time, I went through. Oh, actually, it had to be during college time because my parents would not have allowed me to go see a psychiatrist in high school because I was still under their roof, right?
Yeah.
So after I got diagnosed, actually, I ended up telling them, and they actually were like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You don't have a problem? And I'm just like, what? I obviously have a problem. I'm diagnosed and I have all this medication for it. And they're just like, it's not real. So it was definitely like a tough conversation to have. I mean, even now, right? Like, I think I told you recently when I did go to Asia to see my parents, I brought up the fact that I have a therapist.
Yeah.
And then my mom straight up was like, what's wrong with you? What kind of problems do you have? And she kind of took it as like an offense.
Yeah.
Or an insult to her as a parent rather than what I necessarily needed help on.
Right. So there's so many layers to that because it's like I'm thinking about like the fact that we're Asian.
Mm-hmm.
It's also not just Mental Health Awareness Month, but AAPI. Wait,
is it the same month?
It is.
Why would they have
AAPI Heritage? Is it AAPI?
I think so because I keep seeing AAPI on like Hulu, on my like Google TV thing.
Okay, so I know it is the same month, but forgive me, I don't actually know if it's AAPI Heritage Month, if that's the actual it's called. I like how we both looked at her phone.
And you're like, I want to look it up.
Fact check it, please. Thank you very much.
May 1st to May 31st, AAPI.
Okay, AAPI Heritage Month. Okay.
Correct.
So I think this is super interesting because, one, as Asian Americans, that's already a whole layer that we are still trying to navigate. And for context, both Shengjia and I are first generation, meaning we were actually born outside of the States. So, wait, when did you move here again?
Oh, God. Around like 7 or 8-ish?
Okay, so I moved when I was 9, and I've noticed this very interesting pattern where most of the people I end up becoming really good friends with actually moved here more or less around that age. If anything, maybe 8 to 11 is, or at least for like the people that I end up being really close with.
Do you feel like just moving at that roughly that age has an impact on that? Well, I mean, it definitely does in terms of like language and cognitive development and like.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if this is what you're like asking, but I think it's a matter of it's that preteen years where you know enough to remember your culture and to have as much of a culture shock when you actually come here. I think because for those that I've met that moved here when they were younger, I notice while they do remember some stuff, I might be more passionate about certain things, or I might feel stronger about certain things because of my association with it.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of why. But then there's also like this weird, not that I don't get along with people who moved here, it's just people I've noticed become like really, really, really good friends with, and I just click with faster. It's like if they moved here later, then there's a little bit of a learning curve. It's almost like me going back to the Philippines for a little bit and then learning some of the slang and does that make sense?
Wait, you're talking about like connecting with someone that moved after the preteen years?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Then I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So
I got lost for a second.
No, you're good.
Tuned you out.
That's real.
My brain like legit like stopped listening to you, and I was like, Scout House, is this related to Girl Scouts? And then I was looking outside, so.
Honestly,
and I was thinking about what's in that bottle over there.
I freaking
Why
love
is it
this
weird discoloration?
Oh, because it's vinegar.
Oh.
And vinegar and water.
Oh, okay.
Because like with the fires and all that, like, yeah, I just have vinegar and water laying around.
No, I mean, that's like, I was like, oh, that's kind of like yellowish, but why is this one whitish? Like, I know that one of them had to be vinegar. This one.
That one?
Yeah.
This is for my cleaner, my lens cleaner.
Oh.
So that's why it's better at coloring.
Sorry.
It's
I'm
okay.
like just distracted.
It's fine. I mean, this is just how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, so going back to the whole like being Asian and then getting diagnosed, without even talking about the family aspect yet, how did that feel when you were in college?
No one ever asked me that before.
Oh, really? Wait, really?
Yeah. I mean, like, I mean, there's like two parts to this, right? Like, I didn't actually learn how to feel. I didn't know how to recognize my feelings, or I even had feelings about things until very recently, or like the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Back then, like, it was, my life was very much of like, there's just this happy-go-lucky Shengjia, and that's about it. Like, yeah, I would get depressed about some things here and there and get sad, but like, I had 2 modes, or actually 3 modes: sad, happy, neutral.
Yeah.
There was I didn't know how to describe any other emotions. And I guess like it was, at the time I was just like, okay, this makes a lot, it made me feel, if anything, it made me feel extremely validated. Once I did find out, I always somewhat had a hunch, given that, I mean, when I was in elementary school in China, the teachers would always, I would always get in trouble for fidgeting, for moving around, for basically being hyperactive.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, the way they dealt with it probably was not the best, which was having me go through, like, I guess the American term for it's like timeout, but I'm basically on timeout, like standing in their office during
the whole time?
During recess, because I would get in trouble. I was like, they're making paper airplanes, because elementary school in China was all indoors, right? It's in one big building. It's not one of those like different like buildings, and you get to walk. It was all in one enclosed building. There were stairs, and I accidentally, me and a couple other guys, we were playing tag, and when I was tagging them, their face was too close to the wall, and their teeth hit the wall, hit the tile, and it broke. I relate to and this. I mean, obviously I got in trouble for it, right? I relate to this. I mean, there were like so many different scenarios of this, and like I made paper airplanes, and then I flew it, and one day the teacher just happened to be walking up the stairs, and it like poked her in her head. And then she looked up at me. No, it was actually on the side of the table. And then she looked directly right at me, and I was like, oh shit. And then I knew I was going to go to her office. So like, just the fact that I was always hyperactive, I was always running around. Every single family would basically tell me, like, even as a young adult, right, in my late teens, they would tell me every time they see me that, oh, Shengjia, like, I remember when you were a kid, you were this like crazy little monkey climbing everywhere, jumping everywhere. You'd never be walking. You're always running or skipping or whatever. You're always doing something not still.
Right. No. I feel
like you relate to that completely.
I relate heavy to that. I mean, I think the main difference that kind of sticks out to me is like in the Philippines, at least for elementary school, if we got in trouble, they would pull out their yardsticks or wooden yardsticks and smack us. So,
where would they smack you guys?
Usually hands, because, well, at least for me, I don't know if that's necessarily true, like general wise. For me, it was mostly like hands, because.
Did you go to a Catholic school? Or no?
Yes. Actually, yes.
I feel like that might play into the whole, like, that form of punishment as well.
That's a good point. Because first of all, my memory's still messed up from my concussion.
I thought that was just your short-term memory.
Short-term memory, yeah, but like for some reason, I don't know, dude. It's weird. There's been like some stuff that's like fuzzy, and I don't know if it's like because I'm hitting a threshold or something. I don't know.
Your brain is at max capacity?
As if it wasn't already before. But yeah, it's weird. There's some stuff that's like, wait, like it's blurry. It's like, it's just, I don't know what it is. And also my right eye, and you guys will see, like I keep doing this thing, but like my right eye, my peripheral is still like, it gets strained really fast, and like it moves. I was gonna be like, it moves.
So it's like a tired eye or whatever that is called?
Maybe. I'm not familiar.
I mean, I'm not going to notice it that much because half the time when we're talking to each other, we're looking at something else.
Yeah.
Actually, 90%.
Yeah,
95% of the time when we're talking to each other, we're not looking at each other. We're either looking like at our phone, playing Pokemon Go, because that's how I met her. Or we're looking off to the side because we're thinking and trying to dig for information or whatever thing there is.
We're processing.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. That's hella funny because like I can't remember how many times I've actually looked at your eyes while you're talking, probably because I zone out.
Thanks for telling me I'm really boring.
Okay, fun fact. There was this time where we were talking about like things that I do and don't remember, and how, if you told me something that I'm probably not supposed to know, it's fine because I probably won't remember it anyways. And I'm like, oh, la-di-da. Okay, cool. I heard that. Now moving on. And she was like, do you remember what you said?
What did I say?
She was like, I don't know whether to take that as a good thing that I can trust you or that I'm boring.
I don't remember that. I remember you mentioning that to me. I don't remember why I said that and why I came to like that conclusion.
I think it's hilarious though, but I think you were mostly kidding, kind of. You're just kind of like, because, obviously if it's interesting, we're going to remember it normally, but because...
Sometimes.
Yeah, but I think you're mostly kidding.
I know I was kidding. It's just like, even if a lot of the times, even if it is important, even if it is interesting, we still forget. It's very much unintentional. And I guess this will dive into like a whole different topic that we didn't finish the previous one on. All right. So I guess we'll go into that. It is actually, I've had a lot of experiences with like past partners where they feel unimportant. Or like ignored or forgotten because of the fact that, like, let's say I forgot like an important date. I forgot that they liked something or they didn't like something. I would forget what necessarily, like, I would just forget a lot of things, but it was never intentional. But after a while, like, they might forgive you like first, second, third, maybe 5 times or 10 times. But like after a while, it builds up, especially for people who don't have ADHD, who don't struggle with that. Like they might, in the beginning, they might see it as like a cute little quirk.
But it's the quirks that eventually they find annoying.
Yeah.
That totally makes sense. And actually, I'm also making a note of that, although at this point it's like I'm making so many notes, I don't know if I'm going to read it.
You're probably not.
This is us. So, which is why I wanted to do it like with friends and people that actually like just chat with.
Mm-hmm.
It's unpolished, unmasked for the most part. But okay, so... I love that you brought up how we didn't finish the other thing. So I'm going to go back to that. But in terms of like looking back at your younger self and the way you showed up in the world before a diagnosis, like how did getting the diagnoses validate and or make you feel when you look back at it?
I think for me, it's like it explains a lot of my actions to me. Because I mean, at this point, at that point in my life, like it didn't really matter to all the people in the past because they weren't really in my life anymore.
Yeah.
So it was more so of me finally understanding, like, oh, and like making sense of, in a way, like the traumas I went through.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah.
Like I struggle with, like, one thing I do struggle with is like acknowledging what I went through when I was younger as trauma, because like trauma has such like a strong such a negative connotation to it. And like I had a couple sessions with my therapist about this because I had so much trouble recognizing what I went through as a kid as trauma, even though in actual reality it is.
Yeah.
Like, especially if something good came out of what our parents put us through, we tend to make sense of it in our brain, like, oh, this was because of that. That's why they treated us that way.
Right.
That's why they pushed us that way. But it also, at the same time, like, they didn't have to treat us in that harsh way or traumatic way. They could have done it in different...
Like, there are options.
Yeah, but they didn't use the other options. And, like, it was... I mean, still, I even at this day, I still struggle with, like, acknowledging some of what I went through as trauma, but I'm more comfortable with that word now.
That I like that you brought that up, because I actually don't remember at this point if I did a video on it or not. But I'm like, I don't know what I've recorded so far until I look back at it. That was the concussion, I promise. But I know I was thinking about how, like, oh wait, I did do a video on this. I did.
About trauma?
More or less just like thinking about how grieving right now and like how losing my grandparents hits even harder, as like given the timing and that I'm still like processing my diagnoses and like why I, you know, acted the way I did, or why I didn't feel normal, and how like one of my, I still don't know if I would call it like a core messaging per se, but one of, I would say like a core wound at least, is that I'm inherently wrong, or there's something inherently wrong with me. Mm-hmm. Like that's something I've like struggled with like my whole life, and how I felt like there was something wrong with me because I felt so different from everybody else. You know, I was bullied in school by the girls specifically, especially being a tomboy as well. Also, fun fact, Shengjia thought I was gay.
No, I thought you were at least queer. Some level of queerness.
Okay, let's get into that really quick. Okay, you want to tell that story?
I don't even know how to tell it. Why don't you tell it?
I actually don't remember the full thing.
So, gosh, when I mean, Sarah, like, she's, you know, as you all probably have seen, she's very much a tomboy. She wears baggy clothes. Not that there's anything like, you know,
nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, and like, I guess like in a lot of ways, I feel like even though she was dating a guy at that time when I first met her, like, to me, that doesn't necessarily mean anything, because I'm personally like very much pansexual. So like, I do have a tendency to date both. So it doesn't mean anything to me if I see someone that looks like they may be queer to be dating a guy.
Yeah. No, I think that makes sense, because that is very true. Like, I mean, I think that way too, just because someone is currently with a guy doesn't necessarily mean that is the way they identify all the time. And So,
so I don't know. Well, one of the things I've been working on in therapy is like to be more direct, to, if I'm curious about something, just ask, right? And in all honesty, I felt safe and like it was completely okay to, ask Sarah that. We were walking around Old Town one day and I was like, oh, super random. We were talking about something else while playing Pokemon. And I was just like, are you queer? Are you gay? And then she just started laughing. And then I was like, oh, did I say something wrong? In my head, I was like, oh shit, did I like offend you? Because maybe it's like a cultural thing. After I moved to the US, like a lot of what I did say would make people uncomfortable because it was either too blunt or like not something a typical Asian American or American person would say.
Not a social norm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I find it hilarious.
And your first response was, you're not the first person that has asked me that.
Yeah. The first person who asked me that was my mother.
That's so interesting. What was your answer to that?
I was like, no, why would you think that? And she's like, well, you love sports, My mom definitely thought there was a possibility for me to be that because my second oldest sister and I were both very much into sports. We're both very tomboyish, even till now, obviously. And like, I kind of just dress how I feel like dressing. Like legit, I have always preferred baggy clothes. And now that I'm diagnosed, I now understand, oh, it's because of like sensory overload. And I'm like really particular with certain materials. Like I can't do it. If I am, I was gonna say if I'm wearing clothes.
I'd hope so. It's okay. You can run around in your birthday suit in this fishbowl.
Yeah, in my fishbowl where you see all around. But when I pick the clothes I wear, I've noticed that either A, I prefer tank tops that have no sleeves if they're going to be fitted, because then I don't feel as overstimulated. But if they are going to have sleeves, I prefer to be baggy because like I feel constrained, I feel restricted, and the type of material that clothing could be made of definitely contributes to that too.
You know that style of t-shirts with baggy sleeves? They're like usually like the streetwear style.
Oh yeah,
which is totally your style. Like the fact, like when I found out that you dance and all that, it like to me that fits the whole image. But then I didn't know that. Like now it makes more sense. You did it because that's what's more comfortable to you, but not because it was who you necessarily identified as.
Yeah, it wasn't because of dance and like all that background. Although that probably validated me to a degree to not be the only one wearing that, which is probably why I got into it, or not the full reason, but part of it. So there were so many times when I was younger that like I would cry and feel like the world was ending when I would have to wear
a dress,
or not just a dress, but like, okay, I am now proud to wear and appreciate like Filipino clothing, the traditional stuff. But when I was younger, that stuff was so itchy and like like it just, I felt like I was dying inside, you know? And I would just cry and the world felt like it was collapsing in me. And I would get in arguments all the time, especially if I had to wear it for like, you know, mass or something, or like a special occasion. And it's like, hey, why don't you represent your culture and wear this? And it's like, I want to, but I don't like how it feels. So like, I didn't know that that's why I would put up such a fight. But I definitely still carry that on to today. And it's only after the diagnosis that I understood, and I'm still kind of in like the phase of learning to understand deeper, but I'm starting to understand why I choose the clothes that I choose, or why like I tend to feel really overwhelmed if I've tried to fit in while wearing certain clothes.
So what I'm getting from this is you're not averse to wearing like dresses or skirts. It's purely like the fabric for you.
Yes.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yes. Because there's the part of it where it's like, okay, sometimes I do feel like wearing a dress and looking, you know, pretty and dressed up and whatever, but like,
you can still look pretty.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Don't be hating.
That's a good point. Thank you for correcting me. I appreciate that. Yeah, because it's like I look at, you know, all the other girls and be like, well, I feel like that's how I'm supposed to be. Like, I feel like that's how I'm supposed to dress. If I want, you know, if I want affection, or if I want to, like,
get a hot date, get a pokey daddy.
Oh God. Oh Lord. That's a different video. I might link it there, but maybe not. But yeah, like if I essentially, like, especially in my teens and high school, I remember thinking and feeling like if I want to be normal, or if I want to have the potential or the possibility of like building certain relationships that like the other girls did, or the attention or the affection or whatever it is, then I have to wear clothes like that. And I have to show more skin, and I have to be like, whatever, you know what I mean? And if you want to, then you want. If you want to, that's cool, right? But like, I didn't like it because I felt uncomfortable, unless it's like a tank top. And at that point, I was like, I might as well be wearing sports bra. I'm playing sports. But like, I just felt like, because I'm not comfortable wearing these types of clothes, then there's no way that someone could ever be attracted to me, or there's no way that someone could ever respect me. If we're going to talk about like work, being an adult right now and stuff, you know, there's no way that somebody would ever think I'm competent because I wear baggy clothes and I act hyper. Well, I don't act hyper.
That's a really good point. It's something that, like, for example, I personally do struggle with a lot too, because I mean, I work in the finance industry. So most people in finance do dress up, do wear either at minimum business casual, if not business formal. And I'm not that kind of person.
Yeah.
I mean, at most, I guess I work, I actually more recently started wearing, in the past couple of years, started wearing like, I guess the way I would describe it is like a Bay Area tech bro. You see me.
I love this because it's so true though.
Yeah. Because going back to the previous point, my thing about not liking to wear dresses is because it's restrictive to my movement.
Yes.
Because if I'm wearing a dress, I can't sit how I want to sit. I can't like lean around or move around the way I want to do. And that's what bothers me.
Yeah.
And I do completely relate to the other things that you were saying earlier about like showing skin, blah, 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 like all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Back to our current point. What was I saying?
I forgot.
No, I was trying to tell you that, I dress like a Bay Area tech bro.
There you go.
It has since then helped a little bit because like, I mean, like tech bros aren't like that horrible. At least I'm wearing like a button-up shirt.
Yeah. It's socially acceptable.
Yeah, it's socially acceptable for work attire. So it's gotten a little bit better, but I still do see that, especially like some of my colleagues, like the industry that I work in is actually more conservative. So when I'm around like the older generation, I do sense a little bit of like, oh, you're going to wear that? And I'm like, yeah. And like, I mean, at this point in my role, like like my colleagues know I am competent, so it's not necessarily an issue, but I feel like when you're starting a job, any job, like there's that like weird phase that you have to, like weird dance that you have to go through where you kind of like perceive whether if that person is competent, whether if they're good at what they know what they're saying, they know they're not lying on their resume, they're not lying during their interview, and like, yeah.
It's like the dating phase.
Of work. Can I work with you?
Do you like to work with me?
That sounds weird.
You don't even realize until we start recording stuff how many weird things I actually say until you say it. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a very good point. But hey, I appreciate it.
No, I appreciate that you don't take offense to me calling things out.
I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Well, you do think.
Yeah.
I'm the one that doesn't think. We talked about this.
That's true.
You want to talk about? I mean, that is like a very good like a difference because we both have ADHD. You never told me if you were ever diagnosed with depression.
Oh yeah, so I was first diagnosed with PTSD, MDD, and panic disorder, which I do not agree with panic disorder at all.
Did you say
MDD, so major depressive disorder.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I was diagnosed with that like more or less like over 7 years ago for sure, maybe 8 or 9 now, I don't know, but it wasn't until November 2023 that I was diagnosed with ADHD, and that's when everything made more sense.
Wow, you have it down to the day. Wow.
Because
it was a very monumental time.
Yes, it was. I had to make spreadsheets as well of my symptoms and when they showed up and how they showed up.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah, because like people don't freaking like believe me, especially when I don't remember them. So it's like this weird thing of 2020. I want to say like between 2021 to 2023, again, not like exact years, but more or less those were like, I would say when I felt more confident that I have navigated my trauma significantly more than the previous years. And I was really blown away by the fact that I felt like, okay, yes, obviously I can always keep working on things and there's still some stuff that are triggering, but like this, like how difficult things were did not feel like it was just because of trauma. The difficulty that I face on a day-to-day, just getting up, getting out of bed and all that type of stuff, it was like the more I worked through my trauma, the harder it was to get out of bed.
How did your therapist and psychiatrist describe that? Were they saying like, oh, it's due to that might be because of blank blank. Or
I don't even think they described it really. I don't know if they did. It kind of felt like it was swept under the rug a lot. And like I had to make so many notes for myself because either A, I would forget so that by the time I got there, I'd be like, I don't know. Like, I don't remember. I know this isn't it, but I don't remember why this isn't it, you know? So I would overcompensate, AKA mask, that I like just overcompensate by like writing down everything that I could for just some sort of like confidence I have something to say and something to back my theory, because I'm also really good with patterns and pattern recognition and all that, but I don't always know the underlying thing that's causing that pattern, or I don't always remember the underlying thing that's causing that pattern. I just remember how it makes me feel and like all that type of stuff, which, as you guys probably know, if you're diagnosed, most people don't really care about the way you feel about those symptoms until you're like deep in it, I think. But yeah, so it's like, and then there were times where I would make notes and then I'd be like, well, now I'm overwhelmed with these notes. No, I'm not reading this. So I started making like different types of, charts and all that because it was easier to comprehend. So I went through this whole gamma of like overcompensating just to make sure I had my points, just to get the diagnoses.
Dang.
And, well, let me say appointment, diagnoses, or the ADHD appointment.
You said 2022 or 2023?
2023 was when I actually got diagnosed.
Okay. Yeah, I think at that time, by then, that was after COVID.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Yeah, so a ton of people were getting diagnosed. And
it sounds like you probably had to deal with a much worse uphill battle than you should have had to, because my diagnosis was not this difficult.
Wait, tell me more.
So, I mean, like, I had to fill out a couple worksheets of how I feel, questions about like, my inattentivity, my forgetfulness, and then I had to give out 2 or 3 worksheets to people around me so that they can fill it out. Similar questions about figure out like whether if you truly do have ADHD. It's like about the very typical symptoms.
Wait.
So, and then like after that, I went in. Like all I had to do was I went in for one appointment, talked to them, and then they said, "Oh, you probably have ADHD." And then I was like, "Huh?" And then the doctor asked me to fill out this worksheet at the appointment for myself, and then I was to get my friends to fill out this worksheets, like 3 different people. And then I was to submit it. And then most of the questions were based on how often would I, lose track of the conversation? How often would I forget things? For example, leaving cabinets open. For example, forgetting to lock my door or leaving my key
Fun fact,
outside.
She opened my, I have 2 doors, so she opened the first door. I had no idea it was unlocked. Lucky got here today, but...
Yeah, I used to think, before I got diagnosed, I used to think like that was like a cute little quirk of mine.
Thought we were special.
Yeah, we're just that adorable, right?
Wait, how many pages did you say it was?
No, 3, like it was 3 different like I had to get references from 3 different people.
Oh, okay. But do you remember more or less like how many pages that
I think it was like 2 pages.
What?
Like 1 piece of paper, front
What
and
about
back.
for you? Same thing?
Mine was a little bit longer. I think it was like 3 or 4 pages.
Mine was 12.
Why the fuck is it 12?
I was like, why are you
Was
gonna
it double spaced?
No, it was single space.
What type of font?
It was like 12, maybe 11, but like it was double-sided. Now I'm wondering if it was 12 or 24.
No, it had to be 12.
Yeah, it had to be 12.
They wouldn't go, maybe the title was 24, but the regular font, because I was diagnosed by Kaiser.
Oh, but that was in your when you were, was that Northern Kaiser?
That was, yeah.
So
Does that
makes
okay,
difference.
tell
That
me
makes a
more.
difference. So like I've noticed, not that, I'm not saying it's necessarily better and that one is worse, but it's more like I know, she's like just laying on her,
Resting on her little
she
cane.
loves resting her chin on pillows. She's like she steals everything she can to have a chin pillow. We're talking about my dog just laying on her toy. But yeah, like I feel like I had a much easier time navigating Northern Kaiser. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but like I was about to say Northern Hemisphere.
You're not wrong.
Did you feel the same?
Factually, like you're not wrong. It is in the northern. We're both of it is in the northern.
Oh, cool.
Totally off topic. Okay, no. So I would actually say my experience navigating Kaiser in the Bay Area was actually tougher than navigating the Kaiser in Southern California.
Why is that?
I think, I mean, for me, it was like harder to get appointments. It was harder for me to like a lot of times it would feel like I would feel invalidated by my doctors. Yeah, but like over here, maybe I was just super lucky. When I first moved down to LA, I got PPO because I was really scared that Kaiser wouldn't get me a psychiatrist. And by then I have been medicated for about like 1 year already. So I didn't want to, because, it was like, new job, all that stuff. I didn't want to struggle with the healthcare system.
Try to navigate it again.
Yeah, while I'm trying to navigate like a new role. So I paid the extra. I later calculated how much extra I paid by doing PPO in terms of like a monthly paycheck.
Yeah.
Or like each paycheck, how much they take out for your health insurance, plus the appointment costs and all that stuff. And now that cause paying like how much it takes out of our salary for medical, it is a huge difference between PPO and Kaiser. Kaiser is like $20 per month for me.
Wow. So I'm guessing it was significant.
Yeah, it was pretty significant. So after the first year, I looked at the cost and I was like, okay, this is a little too much to justify. Therefore, and I'm a little bit more comfortable at my job. So like, let's try to navigate it. And I called Kaiser's mental health line and overall it was fairly smooth for me. But I know that there are a lot of other people that have had completely different experiences from me.
It's interesting though, because well, one thing that sticks out for me is you were diagnosed already when navigating
Yes.
Kaiser here. And is that specifically here in SoCal, right?
Well, I was diagnosed in NorCal.
No, sorry. I meant when you were trying to get your medication and stuff, that was specifically here in SoCal.
Correct. Through
Okay.
Kaiser, correct.
Okay. So there's actually a few layers here now that I'm thinking about why it might have been easier for me to navigate like Northern Kaiser. I think it's a huge part of it is because my mom's a doctor. So I think now that we're talking about it, I'm like, oh, it's probably because she also worked in Kaiser.
So would the other doctors know who you are? Because that's very uncomfortable. That's kind of weird. That is ultra uncomfortable.
It's actually, it definitely added.
Why would you ever want to go to the doctors? Sorry for cutting you off.
No, you're good. You're good. Let's just say that it was actually really tough to know that my doctors are friends with my mom, because then even though there is that confidentiality aspect, it's still tough, right? But yeah, I'm thinking about it. That's probably why I had an easier time. I don't necessarily know if they knew me. I can't say that was always
right
my way in. It was more so because my mom knew how to get into the system and like all that. Then the advice I got was a lot more specific. It was direct, which back then I didn't know I had ADHD or have ADHD. So like specificity instructions made a huge difference. As compared to here, I am not getting clear instructions at all on like how to navigate the system, where to go, who's my point of contact first, and then at what point does my point of contact switch. Like none of that was clear to me, especially when it comes to talking about mental health. And my diagnoses of PTSD, MDD, and panic disorder were kind of like, I think I like talked to maybe 3 different psychiatrists before I accepted that, because I
accepted the ADHD or
the fact that I had the 3 diagnoses, because the first one for sure, like I didn't really understand like what was I really getting into, like I didn't really understand the value of getting a diagnosis. So there's already the end of the thing on my end where it's like, oh, it's, whether someone gives me a diagnosis or not, like, doesn't really matter. I didn't really understand the level of validation that it could give to my own experiences and the way it could gaslight me if I didn't get that diagnosis or a diagnosis of something. So I kind of, a lot of it was me not knowing how it would or wouldn't affect me. But yeah, the first one was just like, oh yeah, just major depressive disorder. I was like, there's something else here. Like, it doesn't make sense. I mean, MDD did make sense, but the trauma aspect, like, I really felt was like magnified at that time. And I felt like because technically my PTSD is complex PTSD. So because it wasn't one specific scenario that I could point to, and the fact that I like had a lot of memory gaps around my trauma and stuff, like it felt like I wasn't taken seriously. And like, if you know me, you know that I hate even the thought of trying to prove myself. Like, I will just not try to prove myself. If you put me in a situation or a conversation where I have to prove myself to you, I'd probably walk away. I'm like, cool, okay, bye. I just will not engage in that because I think it's a waste of time and I don't want to have to prove myself. And so that being my tendency, I like walked away from that kind of being upset and bitter and being like, do I even want to try and get help or like figure this out? Because at that time I didn't know it was complex PTSD. I just knew it wasn't necessarily MDD by itself, although I related to MDD. So like, go through another psychiatrist after like, a couple months or whatever, and try to talk to other people and get their thoughts on it. And it's like, okay, there's something else here, but I didn't really like, they didn't call it PTSD necessarily. I don't remember what. It wasn't until the third, I guess is what I'm saying, that I felt like they put a little bit more effort into understanding the nuance of how PTSD and major depressive disorder can intertwine.
Was this all through Kaiser?
Yes.
The three? Wow, I'm surprised.
Yeah.
That they actually allowed you to get second opinions.
Oh, let's just say I can be feisty. So.
Okay.
like when it comes to like medical stuff, because I grew up with, my family being in the medical field, like I know when I know shit and I know when I don't. So when I know shit, I can be like, no, I'm not taking this, because I know enough to know that I need help in this area. And that's why I'm coming to you for professional advice and everything. And if I'm not going to be taken seriously, like when I already know some stuff in my head, that's like, then how are you treating everybody else who doesn't know the system? Mm-hmm. Then how are you treating everybody else who doesn't know where to start? Because like, it's overwhelming, right? And so I think that side of me comes out, because I'm like, if you're doing this to me, you're definitely doing this to everybody else that you can do it to. Mm-hmm. So I feel more confident to push when it comes to the medical stuff, because I am aware of how much I do know in it. And it's like, I know that I'm not like, obviously I'm not an MD. I'm not claiming that I know everything. I'm not claiming that, I'd even know as much as like my sisters in the medical field, but I know enough to know when something is bullshit.
But then how do you know like the limit in terms of like how much you can push, whether if it's like a justifiable push or you're just being an asshole, being a Karen?
That's a good question. I think there's definitely I definitely have to check myself, right? There's always a level of, okay, Sarah, chill out. Like you're definitely very frustrated right now and you can't even say all the things you want to say. And so when it comes to that, obviously I have to kind of take a step aside. But at the same time, because of my personality and the way I do introspect a lot, I am confident enough in myself to know that I am self-aware and that I am present in my body when I do advocate for myself or for other people and all those things, because there's a difference, right? Like when I am just purely reacting and I'm just being an asshole, which can happen, right? It can. I'm not gonna lie.
I haven't even seen that side of you yet.
I am actually very curious how many people have. I feel like it's very specific. But yeah, like, actually part of me now is like, hey, I should call Antoine and be like, yo, how much of an asshole can I be? Because I'm not shy about it. Like I'm gonna be honest, like, being Filipino and growing up like with guys and also having mostly guys for friends growing up, like you really had to stand up for yourself. But
totally off topic.
yeah.
Do you feel like, so me being Chinese, like growing up, it was very much like everything was very passive. There's like that, you know, how to describe this? Like, we got to read in between the lines and kind of guess what that person wants. And like, people don't really argue, or if they did, right afterwards, they would sweep under the rug. What is it like for typically, I'm just like overarching general Filipino culture?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. Let me write it down so that we don't forget it.
This is like totally not related to mental health.
No, I think this is.
It is?
I think it is, because the way we grow up and the way we have been taught to show up, whether what's socially normalized in that current culture, affects the way we see whether or not like we're handling things in our adult life properly or get into healthy relationships, which then affects our, like, it's just all connected, you know? It's like, I feel like you can't really separate the two. But can you say it again so I can write it down?
Oh shit, I don't remember what I said.
Something about,
it was like, Asian, like stereotypically, right? And also from my personal experience, yeah. Asian culture tends to be very passive, non-confrontational, and we tend to sweep things under the rug. And even when we are confrontational, it's very much in between the lines. It's very subtle. I was curious whether if stereotypically in Filipino culture, is it similar or is it more confrontational?
Okay, I like that. Is it similar or is it more confrontational? So I'm definitely writing it down so that we can circle back to this. But yeah, to kind of like finish the thought that I'm slowly losing in terms of just like how much to push in the medical field. Like in general, I want to make it clear that there's a difference between advocating for ourselves and challenging and pushing those that are providing healthcare for us versus just blatantly disrespecting them. You know, okay. I think there's a very clear difference between the two. So when I say that I push and I can be feisty, I'm saying that I can be very, very passionate about the things I believe in, which is generally how I am anyways.
100%. Anything you do, it's with all that passion. That includes the other side of the passion as well.
Yes.
Just to clarify.
Yeah. It's just how I am. Like, I don't know, for better or for worse, I don't know how to do things without passion. And it's like, I just don't do it if I don't have passion, which is the whole thing in ADHD, right?
Yeah, there's no motivation.
Yeah. But when it comes to being passionate about the level of care we're getting in the medical field, I also thankfully have the perspective of seeing my family members in the medical field and how burnt out they can be or they can get, and like the level of the physical toll it takes on them, the way it affects their relationships, the way it affects the way they show up in their relationships. So I thankfully had that growing up to help balance me in the way my passion shows up, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So because I don't see like my providers as this completely different team, like I don't see them as, you know, they're in a whole different side. I see them as people that I'm supposed to collaborate with, and I see them as people who can also get tired. And like, I literally see my dynamics with my family members when they're exhausted or when they are showing up more for their clients than they are for their family, because that's where they're spending most of their time, and it's providing for the family and all that type of stuff. Like, because I have that experience and it's so ingrained in me, I think that's the main check for me when I do stand up for myself and advocate for myself and all that type of stuff. Had I not have that experience, that passion would probably look a lot more unbalanced, or it could, because my perspective would probably hyper focus on the injustice that I feel like we can get and receive in like mental health and stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
If that,
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think it's tough because there's the other end of it where it's like, okay, well, yes, I am passionate about these things, but burnout is also real. And I think like I'm still trying to grasp it and understand what that looks like for me and how that looks like in different stages of my life. So there's this, at least from the outside, it can sometimes look inconsistent because, oh, like Sarah's standing up for herself in this area and all that. But then there's other areas of my life where I'm going to be like, I'm too exhausted to like say anything. I'm too exhausted to even ask for a different drink because this drink was the wrong one that they gave me. You know, like I'm too exhausted to say, sorry, I actually didn't want mustard in my burger.
Because you like your burgers plain.
I do. So like I'm too exhausted to say those things. So I'm going to like just shut up and not say anything. Or I'm going to like really, really, really beg my partner at the time to be like, hey, can you be the one that like just please, like please.
So you just deal with it if you're single?
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks.
Because I'm so tired. I'm like, I don't even want to like deal with this. So it's tough, right? Because it's like, okay, that passion went all the way over there. And now I just tolerate my burger.
Just sit there, sadly look at your burger and try to wipe as much of the mustard as you can off.
Yes. Oh. Or the mayonnaise or any of that. Because like she said, I like it plain. But
I only know that because I wanted to get some Happy Meal and I offered it to her.
Great stories there. I think it's really tough to keep that in mind when, at least for me, you know, when, again, I'm passionate about something else. So I feel lucky to have that background. But then the other part of it too is I think it's not talked about enough. And it's harder for other people who don't have that background to get more context of how to separate the people that work in healthcare versus the system. Because I think those are two different things. There's a lot of people that work in healthcare that want to help and want to do more and just can't, not because of them, but because of the system, you know? But I don't know, did you have thoughts?
No.
Hey guys, Sarah here. So Shengjia and I decided to split the video into two different parts because, as expected, we talked for about like a little over 2 hours and we wanted to make it at least a little bit more digestible, given that we're talking about quite a bit of things. So if you have gotten to the end of this part of the video, I want to thank you, and I want to encourage you to continue to the next part while also letting us know if there's anything in this video that resonated with you or that you enjoyed or want us to dive deeper in. I know that we didn't quite finish some of the important topics that we did want to dive deeper into. So either way, if you're new here, I want to thank you for clicking on this video and watching it. And if you have been subscribed to me, thank you again for just continuing to hang out and continuing to engage. And yeah, see you in the next video.